was the foundation, was the day when we started taking the first steps towards making of this great country of ours. I think this day, this 5th of August 2019, will certainly go down in history as the most important red letter day in our journey. For 72 years, there was a certain baggage of a Nehruvian consensus-based politics that India carried, a politics that was steeped in status quos. I think it's taken a Narendra Modi with the support of the biggest majority for an incumbent government in the history of independent India ever to break that kind of politics. There is jubilation, folks, across India. Whether it's Mumbai, whether it's Nagpur, whether it's UP, Bihar, wherever, there is jubilation, barring, of course, some sections of politicians in Kashmir, with Prime Minister Modi's decision of abrogating Article 370, which gave special status to Jammu and Kashmir. He's gone in for bifurcation of the state as well to ensure greater accountability and transparency. How exactly will life change? At the outset, right at the outset, let's just first take you through the key changes. What has changed and how will it impact life of any Indian citizen who may be interested in being invested in the state of Jammu and Kashmir? No J&K property for outsiders. That was the law so far. Well, that changes. Property ownership, same across the entire country. Challenge was no jobs for outsiders. Again, with this move which has been made by the centre today, that part of the story also gets changed. Fundamental rights of citizens in Jammu and Kashmir today are exactly the same as any other citizen, whether you belong to the state or you don't belong to the state. Lesser rights for Jammu and Kashmir women than men, that used to be the reality. Amit Shah, the Home Minister, was at great pains to point out that this will end up taking care of a whole host of such challenges. Just imagine if you were living in South Mumbai or if you were living in South Delhi, Sainik Farms, Cuff Parade, wherever. If you wanted to, let's say, buy something in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, if you wanted to invest there, you could not have unless you had some complicated arrangement going on. All that is over. If you were a Kashmiri citizen, you could have bought any property, done any business in any other part of the country, but not vice versa. The feeling is, as we look at these 5 challenges and we look at what has really changed post today, the feeling is that if you have to find a lasting solution to the Kashmir crisis, and clearly there's been a crisis which has been brewing for the better part of the last 7 decades, then you had to change the status quo. You had to change something. It's a bet which has been taken by the Prime Minister Amit Shah duo, maybe, perhaps, but I think it's a bet whose time had come. If you had not taken this bet now, then I don't think in our country we would have ever had an opportunity to take a radical step like this. How was this achieved? A lot of criticism, a lot of controversies. Parliament was in total chaos today. Jammu and Kashmir put under total lockdown, schools shut, colleges shut, exams postponed. There was a huge cloak of secrecy over the last 1 week, I must point out. Over 50,000 troops. This number 50,000 we're giving is just the government number. For long-term analysts, people who are there on the ground, they've been telling us that this kind of a massive troop build-up has never ever happened. Whether it was 1989 or it was the Kargil war, this is by far the biggest troop build-up that we've seen. State leaders, separatists, all placed under house arrest. If you've been watching television channels or if you were on Twitter, I think barring the odd tweet from an Omar Abdullah or a Mehbooba Mufti, very difficult to spot the voice of separatists. What does that tell you? The government does not want to take any chances. It does not want to be caught in a scenario where some provocation, some sloganeering ends up completely undoing the great homework which has been done by the team of Amit Shah and Narendra Modi. Communication links snapped, no internet. The question being raised is that, are you being fair to the citizens of Kashmir? If you say that you have taken this step, keeping the interests of Kashmiri citizens in mind, then why are you subjecting them to this kind of problems? Could you not have maybe taken them on board? My counter is that, was there any other way to do this? Just ask yourself this question. We're talking about a dispute which has been simmering for so long. We're talking about a region which is mired with all kinds of complexities. Where was the possibility of building some kind of a very open across-the-board consensus? Modi gets the number of seats. Modi believes this is the time when he must take this radical step. Well, he goes ahead and he does exactly that. Tourists, Amarnath pilgrims, everyone was asked, whether you're a businessman or whoever, if you were not a local citizen in the valley today, if you were not a local citizen in Jammu and Kashmir, you were simply asked to move out. And suspense till the very end, surprise announcement being made in Parliament, where Amit Shah, when he started making that address, it was Ghulam Nabi Azad who first stood up and said that how can you be making any statement in the context of Jammu and Kashmir if you have a scenario where 3 former chief ministers are today being placed under house arrest. To my mind, the real impact that we saw at the end of the entire day-long exercise in this kind of suspense and secrecy was how traditional hardcore anti-BJP, anti-Modi parties like Arvind Kejriwal's Aam Aadmi Party or Mayawati's Bahujan Samaj Party and even the chief whip of the Congress Party in the Rajya Sabha, all of them chose to break ranks from their stated positions and decided to support Amit Shah and Narendra Modi in this move. That is the tectonic shift that we're talking about in Indian politics today. Just take a look at how the Home Minister ensured in Parliament that absolutely no piece of this jigsaw puzzle fell out of place.
अनुच्छेद 370 के सभी खंड लागू नहीं होंगे सिवाय खंड 1 के नामक तदनुसार पढ़ा जाएगा। ये सदन जम्मू और कश्मीर पुनर्गठन विधेयक 2019 को स्वीकार करे और इसको व्यक्त करे। सभी सदन बिना किसी संशोधन और अपवाद के जम्मू और कश्मीर राज्य पर लागू होंगे, पूरा संविधान लागू होगा। इस बात के सिवा अनुच्छेद 152 अथवा अनुच्छेद 308 में नहीं किसी अपवाद अथवा इस संविधान के किसी अन्य अनुच्छेद अथवा जम्मू कश्मीर के संविधान के किसी अन्य उपबंध अथवा कोई कानूनी दस्तावेज, निर्णय, अध्यादेश, आदेश, उपनियम, नियम, विनिमय, अधिसूचना, नीति, रिवाज अथवा भारत के भूभाग के प्रवर्तन अथवा कोई अन्य लिखित संधि अथवा समझौता जैसा अनुच्छेद 363 के अंतर्गत परिकल्पित हो अथवा न हो। जम्मू और कश्मीर पुनर्गठन विधेयक 2019 को सदन के सम्मुख विचार के लिए संदर्भित करने पर जम्मू कश्मीर पुनर्गठन विधेयक 19 को स्वीकार करने का विचार व्यक्त करती है।
It was quite a chaotic day, a day full of all kinds of chaos and all kinds of disorderly behavior that you can think of in Parliament. But when you're looking at the sheer enormity of what has happened in Parliament, you will perhaps say that this was only to be expected. Where do I stand? Over the next 2 hours, we're going to break down this entire story for you. What are the implications, the local implications, the global implications, but want to take a straightforward position. I believe, folks, it's the beginning of a new trajectory for the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Perhaps there was no other way to get onto this trajectory, to get onto this road, other than the perceived high-handedness from the centre. There are many who believe that what has been done by Amit Shah and Narendra Modi is very opaque. Attempts should have been made to bring everybody on board. But I just think that at the end of it all, if we can achieve the objective, then I think this high-handedness, well, let's accept it. It's fair. The truth is that regional politicians, the regional players in the valley, whether it's Omar Abdullah, whether it's Mehbooba Mufti, Farooq Abdullah, they have basically let down their own people. Whether it's the PDP, National Conference, questions of allegations of corruption, the point is that there is a certain feeling which exists today that all these regional politicians, local politicians in the valley have only played the game of self-fulfillment. They've propelled their own vested interests and not necessarily the interests of the valley. That's the allegation being made by the centre. The challenge, though, for the centre still remains this. All the economic talk, the spin of development, aspiration, all very well. But how is today's move now going to control the flow of cross-border terrorism? Can we control Pakistan on the basis of what we've done today here in India? That's where I stand. Let's raise a big blunt question on the show tonight. Will abrogation of Article 370 completely transform Kashmir? This mission Kashmir that we're talking about is Article 370's removal. Is it really the ultimate Ramban, so to say, to deal with the kind of crisis, the kind of problems that we've been talking about? I want to first welcome 2 of our politicians today. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, well-known legal, 3-term Rajya Sabha MP, one of the senior-most voices on the opposition side, and Nalin Kohli, spokesperson of the BJP, live with us as well. Warm welcome to both of you, gentlemen. Dr. Singhvi, let me first begin with you, sir. Article 370 and the interpretation which is being given by the government that from now on, this is going to completely transform the story of Kashmir. Do you buy this story of optimism?
Bhupender, I have not only heard your question but also heard full 10 minutes of your opening and the program, apart from being in Parliament and hearing Mr. Amit Shah in detail. So let me be very pointed and brief.
Sure.
I have three facets to this issue and I'll be very pointed and brief. One is clearly, and this I am speaking more in my personal capacity than even as a spokesperson, I must concede, and you might be surprised hearing it, you might not find this from many other people, I must concede that politically this government has scored a big point. I must concede that outside of J&K, possibly large parts of India, there is an emotive issue, there is a support issue, there is an issue about getting a lot of political support, whether for the oncoming assembly elections or otherwise. I certainly don't know the prime objective, but yes, politically they have scored a point. Question is, are such decisions to be taken to score a political point? My second issue is the uppermost, which is the legal facet. That was the political and facet, this is the legal facet. Now legally I ask you one simple question, Bhupender, which of course you have not answered in your opening.
Tell me.
If I have 356, which state do you come from, Bhupender? Which is your state?
UP.
Which is your state? Which state do you come from?
UP, sir. UP, sir.
Well, if I have 356 in UP, if I have 356 in UP, and I dissolve the assembly in UP by using 356, and as you know, while the assembly is dissolved, Parliament becomes the assembly for that state. And then while the 356 is on and the assembly in UP is dissolved, I simply trifurcate UP. In any case, there's a lot of demand for Western UP, Purvanchal and the middle of UP. So it's a perfect case of trifurcation during 356. Would you call that fair? Forget Kashmir, forget 370.
No,
Would
so
you call that normal?
No, so are you saying because there is President's rule?
Was created, just
because there is President's rule,
so
therefore you're arguing that this is an unfair decision, Dr. Singhvi?
Allow me. No, I'm not saying because. I'm saying this is a patent misuse of 356. When you create states like Jharkhand, like Chhattisgarh, like Uttarakhand, Vajpayee ji did it. You have long resolutions by the state assemblies. You then have parliament and then you have a state creation. So this is a sleight of hand. You cannot create a state because parliament is the state assembly. 370 says the state assembly must give consent. Well, today parliament has given consent. QED. So I have a 3 or 2 new states or convert a state into union territory. It's simple, it's powerful, but nobody is addressing this bad issue. Politically, I give marks to the government. They've done it.
Right.
3 and last, what really is worrying, what should worry you, Bhupender, and everybody else on this program, irrespective of political line, is what happens in the future. I genuinely pray, irrespective of Congress, BJP politics, that a new spiral, a new cycle of either violence or separatism doesn't start.
Are you being cynical?
It doesn't happen tomorrow or next week.
Are you being cynical,
If
Dr.
you
Singhvi?
start,
are you being cynical,
no,
Dr. Singhvi?
I'm being,
may I point out that the 3 advisors,
how far,
3 advisors to the region, sir.
The government in scoring this, allow me to finish. Allow me to finish.
Yes.
Allow me to finish.
Yes.
I'm wondering how far this government has thought out this process, even in the medium term, much less the long term. Yes, it's done now. We're all standing behind the armed forces. It's done now. We're all standing behind India.
But explain to me, Dr. Singhvi, I will bring in Nalin Kohli in a moment. But sir,
dissatisfaction.
Sir, you're one of the senior most political voices, Dr. Singhvi, and you like to be introduced as someone who's a 3-term MP. But please tell me, sir. Please tell me, Dr. Singhvi, when you look at what has happened in Parliament today, where a BSP, where sections of your own party, where the Aam Aadmi Party, it appears that the cross-section of political class today is in favor of this decision. Then why should I not be questioning you that Dr. Singhvi is trying to look at this whole story very cynically, trying to rubbish the government, maybe where the government should be lauded for showing some bravado.
I am the one who started your program.
You say, well, but you're taking the point political.
I am the one who started your program.
You are saying, sir, political point. You're saying political point.
Allow me, please.
Yes.
Allow me to speak, Bhupender.
Yes, sir.
Allow me to speak, Bhupender.
Yes, sir.
I am perhaps the only one who started by saying political means majority. I am saying the whole of India. Yes, everything which is majoritarian is not necessarily right. Because you have the majority, it doesn't make it right. As they say, you might be the last person standing, but you might still be the right stand. So, Akla Chalo, don't be scared of Akla Chalo. I'm never scared of Akla Chalo. Now today, the question is the rightness of it, not the majority of it. Yes, I'm conceding. If there was not majority, where would be 121 and 61 vote, 125 and 61 vote?
But Dr. Singhvi, what have we achieved? Tell me, Dr. Singhvi.
I ask you,
sir,
can
you've been
you
with the
ever
Congress party
envisage,
so long.
apart from this emotive,
Sir,
one sec.
Yeah.
Can you ever imagine, Bhupen, if I told you that 356 in any state will be used to trifurcate that state or make the state into UT? Can you ever imagine this in your
but sir,
state?
if we are comparing, may I say this? If we are comparing Jharkhand, if we're comparing Jharkhand or Bihar or Delhi, you know, and an imposition of president's rule here, an imposition of president's rule in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, then are we comparing apples and oranges? But my point is, Dr. Singhvi, this. You've been in power for so long, sir. Congress party was in power for so long, and that's a point which Amit Shah has been making. What did the Congress party do? At the end of the day, if we realize that maybe some moves which were made were not working in favor of the establishment, in favor of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, then you required a new narrative. Government has put together a new narrative. Why are we not willing to give them a chance, Dr. Singhvi?
Very simple answer, Bhupen. Very simple answer. The Congress government had parlays on this at least 5 times in probably 30-40 years. Unlike the BJP, we found and we agreed that there is just not support in the State Assembly of J&K. That's as simple as that, the answer. Have you read the last part of 370? 370, last part says, 370 can be abrogated only with the consent of the Constituent Assembly of J&K. Now, for a minute, I concede in your favor that the Constituent Assembly of J&K is the same as the Assembly of J&K.
Okay.
Which is not, but I'm conceding for a moment.
Right.
We simply found that J&K Assembly would not have the consensus, and we simply did not believe that we used the subterfuge of President's rule to deem Parliament to become the State Assembly and ram
now
this
let me take the liberty with you today, Dr. Singhvi.
We stand by it.
Dr. Singhvi, let me take the liberty
this
with you.
This can lead to a long-term problem
sir, so just
in J&K of escalating violence or separatism.
You made one important point, Dr. Singhvi, and I'm appealing to you in the interest of the country. A lot of viewers are watching
the contract.
No, I'm not breaching.
Sir,
I'm not breaching the contract. I'm just asking you to listen to this. I'm just
don't
asking
breach the contract.
I'm only asking
you can be the devil's advocate. I don't mind.
Yeah, so just
you can be the devil's advocate.
Just bear with me. Just bear with me.
Please be the devil's advocate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just bear with me. Just bear with me. Just bear with me.
I can't answer. I'm not.
You don't. You have to answer me.
You can be the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Why aren't you the devil's advocate?
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So I'm saying don't disconnect the line. Just be with me. Nalin Kohli, I just want to understand. Dr. Singhvi does not like to get into debate. Let's take that aside. I'm just trying to get the picture absolutely clear. Nalin Kohli, this argument being made by a section of the opposition class that this is a violation of 356, this is a violation of the president's rule imposition. Is this a valid argument to be made? Nalin?
I've heard Dr. Singhvi very carefully, so I'd like to respond actually to all the 3 points that he made.
Sure.
The first is he concedes what he calls as scoring a political point, but I'd like to make it absolutely unequivocally and unambiguously clear that this is not a political point for the BJP. It's an ideological point, a point of commitment that goes back to the very foundation of the BJP and the fact that Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee laid down his life in very mysterious circumstances in 1950s. The Jan Sangh was created on this. Do Vidhan, do Samvidhan, nahi chalega. I mean, do Nishan. So I think let's go back to that. It's not about scoring it. Number 2 is that as far as we believe in it, in 70 years, what was meant to be a temporary provision, and no less than Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who fathered this particular provision with the assistance of Iyengar or others, is the person who said it was temporary. It has outlived its life. It hasn't obviously worked. In the state of Jammu and Kashmir, there is alienation, there is lack of opportunity, there is also militancy and terrorism. All of it, despite this going on. Yes, Dr. Singhvi says, and the Home Minister Amit Bhai Shah clearly said, we acknowledge without making it political that every government preceding us has made genuine efforts to try and find a solution, but it hasn't worked in this framework. Let's also understand that this move is not for the BJP or the rest of India. This move is for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, clearly. And Jammu and Kashmir means the people of the Kashmir Valley, the Kashmir of Jammu and of Ladakh. So why is it when the Indian army is recruiting, thousands of people who are youth in the valley turn up to want to join it? How is it when an Aurangzeb is killed after joining the army, his brothers want to be there and his father and his brothers stand proudly? They want to be part of the mainstream. But there is a group there that has made it separatist. There is a group there that has used the so-called temporary provision to confuse the issue, create this kind of smokescreen mirage or this chimera to kind of say that this is the link or the umbilical cord. How far does an umbilical cord survive in a human relationship? It doesn't survive more than a few minutes when the baby is born. This is about the integration of the people so their aspirations as Indian citizens can reach where they deserve to be. Whether it's tourism, whether it's economic opportunities or anything else.
But the manner in which it was done.
Therefore, it's not about scoring.
But Nalin, the manner.
It is about what Modi government and Amit Shah ji has said is doing the right thing.
But the manner in which it was done. The manner in which it was done.
He says his concern about
Nalin, the manner in which it was done.
I'm coming. I'll come to that last.
Yeah.
I will come to that. I mean, I'm only asking your indulgence. There are three aspects to what Dr. Singhvi said. I just want to answer all three. The second in which he said, let's go to the legal one last. The second one is that he raised about his concern. Of course, every right-thinking Indian, and that includes each one of us, have seen what terrorism does, and certainly nobody would hope, we'll all pray, that it does not lead to that situation. But the converse holds equally true. In the last 35, 40 years, everything that's been tried, various interlocutions that have taken place, interlocutors have gone there, under different political regimes, a lot of efforts have happened. But has it removed militancy and terrorism? It hasn't. So perhaps something new needs to be tried.
Fair enough.
So if we have been willing to be tolerant with Article 370 for almost 7 decades, can't we be tolerant to it for half a decade? Can't we see in 5 years?
And
how does it work?
And the last point,
because after all, it is in national interest that we would do the right thing.
And the last point?
And the last point is that, interestingly, Article 370 is the mechanism through which many things were done. The presidential proclamation or whatever. It's through the same mechanism that everything is being reversed. If Dr. Singhvi is using the argument of 356, then he must also bear in mind that 370 doesn't exist for any other state. Of course, there might be a legal challenge to it. Perhaps Dr. Singhvi may argue that legal challenge for a set of petitioners. There would be a counter-legal argument too. But in this particular case, to believe that the government of the day hasn't done its homework, that there are not people who don't understand the Constitution, people haven't understood that what it takes to be done, because the simple thing, and in layman's language, is what could be done through a provision is the reverse that's happened. In any case, there is also a word there, modification. And modification, that word in 370, has to be given the widest possible amplitude.
Dr. Singhvi,
modification can't be that what I like
go beyond the
can be modified, but what I may not like cannot be modified.
Dr. Singhvi, I just want to go beyond the legalities now. And the fundamental question, and that's the point which this country is trying to understand. I began this program by saying that there is a fundamental shift now which is now going to take place. Don't you think that we need to give this a chance? We need to give this move which has been made by the government, Dr. Singhvi, we need to give them a chance. Are you willing to give them that chance, or will we continue to see this kind of a debate that maybe the intention is right but the methodology is completely wrong?
No. Let me see. You are in breach of promise, as some people believe. The government of India is in breach of promise to the Assembly.
No, I have not breached any promise. I have not breached any promise, Dr. Singhvi. I only ask your indulgence to stay for the limited time.
Let's leave that aside. Your breach of promise may be more. Your breach of promise may be more mild than that of the government of India, Kuwait 370.
Okay.
I grant you that.
I can
Let me now answer and make my way out.
Yeah.
You are saying let's leave legalities aside, but the legal part, the answer was the weakest. There is no answer to my legal point. I repeat it very quickly and go on to your question. Legally, it is incredible to believe that 370, which says in black and white that if you want to abrogate me, you must have the consent of the state of J&K Assembly. For the moment, I am treating Assembly the same as Constituent Assembly. Is now read to mean that first I abolish the Assembly, I have President's rule, and then I treat the parliamentary majority to be the state's consent, the state assembly's consent. That is bizarre. That is going to be, I'm sure, a challenge. It is not a untenable challenge. It has a lot of substance. Ultimately,
that's a fundamental right.
But that is a sleight of hand.
But the point,
it is a sleight of hand by this government.
You made that point.
It's a sleight of hand by the government.
You have the right, sir. You have the right to go to the courts, and I'm sure that this matter may go to the court. But the fundamental point I'm making, Dr. Singhvi, you kindly answer that.
Your first point. I'm answering that. I'm answering that.
Yes.
I'm answering that.
Yes, sir.
I'm answering that. I was the one who started, and not only in your program but other programs today, by saying now it's a deed done. the chances of it going through Lok Sabha tomorrow are more than 100%.
Right.
So I'm assuming it's a deed done. Once it's a deed done, the whole country and every party stands behind the armed forces, which are going through a difficult time.
Right.
There is no doubt in anybody's mind, including the governments, that their difficult times and their role will increase.
Right.
Their role will not decrease. Their difficult times will also increase, and we have full faith in them.
Okay.
So we stand behind the nation, we stand behind the jewel in our crown, which is Kashmir, but it should not lead us to forget that spirals of separatism and violence do not happen immediately.
Okay.
If they become embedded in the hearts and the psyche of local people, then overt suppression.
Again, it will bring me back to my question that these cycles of violence have existed even,
you cannot do
even
it
when you
with
had
this.
370.
You
Even
cannot
when
do
you
this.
had 370, even when you had Insaniya,
No,
Jamhuriyat,
you have provided a new reason.
You've had all
No,
kinds
sir,
of
I'm
all
sorry.
kinds of theories in the past, Dr.
Sir,
Singhvi.
no, Bhupender,
Huh.
you are now going to have misinformation and disinformation for a new reason.
Why?
A new excuse.
Why?
That you have twisted, you're right, there has been violence earlier, but you've given them a new reason now. That you have twisted the trust, the pact, you have allowed, I mean, this is the way people speak there, you have allowed everybody to come and settle there, you have changed the character of Kashmir, etc., etc.
Well,
I
that's-
just hope and pray and trust
but sir,
that does not make things go out of hand. I don't want
Okay,
it to be
okay,
a
okay.
genie out of a bottle.
All
you
right.
are giving other reasons.
Okay.
This was not a reason for 70 years.
All right.
You've added one more reason
Yeah.
to an inflamed cocktail already.
That's what I believe. But Dr. Singhvi, I'll let you go. I'll let you go, Dr. Singhvi. Thanks very much. Nalin is going to stay with us. I want to welcome all our other panelists as well. Here with us in our studios, Khalid Shah, Associate Fellow with the ORF, Lieutenant General Rameshwar Roy, well-known defense analyst.